Okay, we're going to dive into the biggest tech trends that could shape 2026, from autonomous vehicles to home robots to the rise of podcasts in your living room. Joining us all to break it all down is someone who's been tracking these changes closely, Jim Anderson, the CEO of Beacon Software. Jim, thanks very much for joining us.
Good to be here, Roger.
Okay, autonomous vehicles, we've talked about it. We're seeing them, but what can we expect for this year, or 2026, I guess? We're not quite there yet.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. They're scaling, right? We're seeing it in San Francisco. We're seeing Waymo specifically going to new markets. They're in Atlanta, Houston, I believe, Dallas. There are other markets that they've announced. And so we're starting to see the issues, both the benefits and the problems associated with scale. They got a lot of press for the blackout in San Francisco that happened a week or two back. And a whole bunch of Waymos got confused. And it's one thing to have one Waymo that's confused with one or two occupants in it. It's quite another to have 100 Waymos confused and not know what to do when the traffic lights are out. And that highlights a real challenge with these autonomous vehicles, is that they all have a telepresence component, right? There's some place they call into, and there's humans that intervene. We don't know how often those humans intervene, whether they're qualified drivers, what commands they issue to the vehicles. All of that is very opaque right now. And so I think we're going to see both success and the failures and the challenges associated with that scale of autonomous vehicles.
So, but a probable slow but steady increasing of use of them, though.
Clearly, they provide a tremendous benefit. They provide tremendous potential safety improvements. We all know the challenges with human drivers, although I don't think, again, when you get 100 Waymos that are confused and don't know what to do with traffic lights that are out, is that a net safety benefit if they're all clogging the intersections? No, maybe not, right? So I think we as a society are going to have to learn to deal with these scale problems. And so that's the real issue for 26 is now it's not just a few vehicles on the roads. What happens when we have hundreds or thousands of them? What problems are we going to see? And then how do we overcome those?
All right, let's move on to home robots. We're not going to see the maid from the Jetsons, is what you're saying. And kids, look that whole thing up.
Exactly. I don't think so. I mean, home robots offer as much potential, maybe even more than autonomous vehicles. When we think about aging, our aging parents, elder care, lots of just we'd all love robots to do our chores for us. But are you going to take a 100-pound robot and put it in your home with your children when you're not sure if it's going to be flaky or how it's going to behave? There's privacy implications if that robot is in your home listening to everything that's going on in the home. There's a lot of things like that. Technology challenges, policy challenges. I am very bullish on the 5 to 10 year potential of home robots. I am less bullish on the 2026 potential for them to actually sort of be able to do anything useful in our homes.
And are they having those conversations about that, the privacy and safety too?
They are, and to their credit, I think the industry recognizes that, and there's some people inside the industry trying to tamp down expectations and say, hey, let's not get too carried away here. We've got a lot of problems to solve, technical problems, policy problems, trust issues, and really the only way to solve those is to get the robots in the homes and to start trying to experiment with them, understand in a controlled way what you're going to run across, and then try to just continue to iterate on those problems. So very bullish, 5, 10 years out, but we got a long ways to go.
Would you volunteer to take one into the home right now?
I would not right now, no.
All right, now podcasts are coming into your home. They're coming over, taking over your TV.
Yeah, even the term podcast is interesting, right? We tend to think that, remember when the podcast came out, that was the iPod and the iPod Shuffle and all those kinds of things. We tend to think of it as this audio thing. Now it's maybe more your phone. But really, so much podcast usage is happening on the biggest screen in the home, which is typically in the living room. And so even the term podcast is a bit of a misnomer. Maybe if we do this prediction next year at this time, we'll be doing it as a podcast, right? How is that different than linear TV? Many podcasts, maybe even most podcasts now have the video component with them. And if you have a video component and you're watching it in your living room, how is that really different than TV? And specifically think about late night TV, right? That's been going through quite a bit of upheaval economically and otherwise. A lot of people predict late night TV is effectively it's just going to be podcasts at this point moving forward.
I can believe that. I mean, a lot of the things I catch from Saturday Night Live, I watch as little snippets, as opposed to
right?
a destination on a Saturday night.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And it's amazing technology has changed so much that it allows pretty much anybody to have a video podcast with minimal expenses. I shouldn't be telling people that.
Exactly. Well, I'm not sure the world needs more podcasts per se, but the world does need, high quality content, and especially in an age of AI with AI slop, there's a lot of low quality content. There always has been a lot of low quality content. Now there's even more. So, how does one differentiate? How do you rise above and produce? I think there's still, humans are infinitely curious, and we want to be entertained, we want to be educated, informed. And so, somebody who's got something to say, or two people or a group of people who have something to say, it's never been cheaper or easier, to your point, to start your own video broadcast, if you will, whether you call it a podcast or not. And then whether you can find an audience for it and sustain it is obviously the question.
Okay, next up, you mentioned it, AI, and please, AI slop. Some of the stuff that's out there right now, it ruins it, because you'll watch something and you go, it's not real. And you think you're actually watching a video that you want to see that's real, and it's not real. Where are we going with AI? Where do you see it heading this year?
Well, AI is pervasive in almost everything, right? It's almost become meaningless. It's like saying, where are we going with the internet, right? The internet sort of governs, it enables almost everything we do technologically. And I think AI is rapidly on the path to doing that as well. I will say physical AI, we've been talking about robots, we've been talking about autonomous vehicles. Those are physical manifestations of AI that have a very different safety set of expectations. It's one thing for my large language model to hallucinate. It's quite another for my autonomous vehicle to hallucinate. So I think what we're going to see is, number one, AI has never been just one thing. There's machine learning, there's natural language processing, there's automated incident detection on videos. There's lots of subspecialties of AI. And so I think what we'll see in 2026 is people becoming a little bit more precise about their terminology. This is not just generic AI. It's AI doing a specific thing in a specific way, whether it be physical in an autonomous vehicle or large language models, or it's helping me process a lot of data and run my business better. I think we just need to be sharper in our language, and I think the industry will continue to evolve. And in 2026, we'll still hear plenty about AI because it's just such a broad term, but the people are going to have to be more specific about what kind of AI.
All right, so we'll talk about this a year from now in a video podcast in our driverless car. But no robots will be cleaning the house at home. Jim, thanks
no robots, exactly.
All right, Jim, thanks very much for joining us. All the best for the new year.
Great, thanks. You too.
Jim Anderson is CEO of Beacon Software.